So, how much of that was a dream? Harry asked Johanna when they woke up next day. His sister laughed. I think there'll be a few other people asking that question this morning. What an amazing night. Once they'd all dived through the hidden gap in the hedge and got back to bed quarters, Mr. Phigg had insisted on taking the children home. I know I can always get you back in no time, he said, but I'm sure you're ready for bed by now. Well done, both of you. We've still got a busy night ahead here, so I'll see you in the morning. Sure enough, just as they were finishing their breakfast, Mr. Phigg slipped into the kitchen. He was still dressed in black. He looked exhausted, but he was grinning. We did it, I think. Touch wood. The children ran over to give him a hug, and Harry duly touched his head. They all went through the little door to the Slumber Downs and walked across the field to bed quarters in bright morning sun. 2 blackbirds were singing loudly on the roof. When they spotted Mr. Phigg, their tune changed, and the children realised it was "For he's a jolly good fellow." They keep doing that, he said, shaking his head. Thank you, fans, he added, waving to the birds. They went in. Sheep were milling around the room, and most of the desks were occupied. It was clear that the team had been working all night. Troughs of water had been set up along one wall, and there were empty feed bags on the floor, along with quite a quantity of oats, since sheep are not the tidiest of eaters. Bartram came over when he saw them. Mabel cleared a space in front of one of the monitors and sat the children down next to him. Let's take you through it, she said. Luckily, the professional camera crew only came onto the scene after Lawrence had shrunk again. But the TV did get this footage that one of the guards caught on his phone. She pressed a button, and the monitor showed some grainy film of a giant ape silhouetted against the moon, beating his chest and peeling a banana. The story was really taking off, so we started dusting and dusting. It was a bit of a hard sell, said Bartram, especially because the TV crew got a pretty good rear view of the soft centaurs. The monitor showed the footage of them thumping down the road, tails swinging and legs pounding. Then a reporter pushing a microphone towards a nervous security guard who said, I shouldn't be talking to you at all, but that was amazing. They were definitely centaurs. I remember doing them at school. I didn't know centaurs wore cardigans, but I suppose it gets quite chilly when the sun goes down. The best line we could come up with quickly was that they were all holograms, said Mr. Phigg. Experimental ones, using cutting-edge technology. We kept emphasising that. People are usually ready to believe that technology's edge is rather sharper than it actually is. We said they were being developed to advertise windmill farm products. I didn't think it was going to work, said Mabel, but then Kenneth Mallender went on the telly and confirmed that they were holograms, and that swung it. Why on earth would he say that? Asked Johanna. He was desperate to keep a lid on things. He didn't know what was going on, where Ostler had gone to, or what he might be up to. He thought he might lose the whole development, so he was looking for a plausible explanation too. Mabel called up the footage of Mallender's interview. Yes, of course they were holograms, he was saying, wiping his forehead with a handkerchief. Or do you actually think real centaurs and 30-foot apes are wandering around in the Sussex countryside? It's all part of our new campaign. How does it go now? His eyes swung wildly as he searched for inspiration. Mallender matches the mightiest appetite in the jungle. It's that sort of thing. We're still working on the slogans. The team are still dusting down the odd outbreak of disbelief, said Mabel, but it seems to have worked. But Does that mean Malinder's got what he wanted? Asked Johanna. Will the development go ahead after all? Just wait and see, said Mr. Phigg, smiling. After that bit, we moved into phase 2 of the operation. The chief executive at the council heard the news story and spent the rest of the evening trying to get hold of Darby Ostler to find out what was going on. She couldn't contact him, of course, since Peaky was otherwise engaged. She was anxious and didn't sleep at all well. The monitor showed a darkened bedroom. A man was snoring steadily next to a woman who tossed and turned. Suddenly she sat bolt upright, and the children recognized the person they had seen talking to Ostler in the lobby of the town hall. She flicked on her bedside light and poked the man awake. What an extraordinary dream! I've finally tried counting sheep, and I think I must have managed to get off to sleep. But then one of the sheep came back again, and it was wearing a straw boater and carrying a cane. That's nice, dear, said the man, rolling over. I'll hear about it in the morning. No, she replied, shaking his shoulders. It's what happened next. The sheep started dancing and singing a song. I can still hear it in my head. He's a crook, he's a crook, he's a crooky crook. Head off to the office, have a looky look. That Darby took you for a ride, his staff file stuffed full of lies. He's had sweeteners on the side, all those deals he tried to hide. He's a crook, he's a crook, he's a crooky crook. Head off to the office, have a looky look. She sighed and said, I'm going to have to. She got out of bed. After what? Go to the office and have a look at the files. At 4:30 in the morning? Yes, this can't wait. Mabel switched the monitor off. The council issued a statement to the press 20 minutes ago. Ostler has been dismissed with immediate effect for falsifying his employment record, taking payments from planning applicants, and forcing the HR department improperly to suspend an employee. That was your friend, Molly. Planning permission for the windmill farm site has been withdrawn. They found that any number of rules had been broken. The new buildings will have to be demolished, and the excavation below them must be filled in. There will be a full inquiry. Hooray! Shouted Harry, jumping up. We've won! But what about Ostler and the nightmares? Said Johanna. Aren't they still on the loose? Yes, said Mr. Phigg, but they always were, so that's not new. We could never hope to get rid of bad dreams entirely. We just try to keep the balance and spread a bit of peace at night. But what if Malinder tries again and gives them another base in our world? Now, you know I hate to kick a man when he's down, but for Kenneth Malinder we were ready to make an exception. As soon as he'd helpfully confirmed the hologram story, some more footage mysteriously found its way to the TV station. It was safely in the bedquarters systems before Peaky broke my camera. Mabel pressed a button and the screen showed the film Mr. Phigg had taken from the fire escape of Malinder gorging in his private quarters, drooling over his wheelbarrow of money. Yuck, said the children together as they relived an unpleasant memory. Yes, that's been the general reaction. His lawyers tried to stop it, of course. It is a terrible invasion of his privacy, no argument about that. But sadly, it was all over the internet by then. And as a result, I don't think Mr. Malinder's business is going to be doing very well for a while. At that point, Simon limped over to join them. What a night, he said. A splendid team effort. and after their little diversion across the downs last night, the centaurs went on to work overtime. He flicked a switch, and only a small scattering of lights appeared on the map on the floor. That's the lowest number of bad dreams for ages. The nightmares were keeping their heads down, and the centaurs filled the gap. Let's hope things stay that way for some time. Speaking of a good night's sleep, said Mr. Phigg, I think a nap may just be in order now. He leant back in his chair and put his feet up on the desk. Oh, that's nice. At that point, the front door burst open, and Brother Periwinkle marched briskly into the room, his brown habit billowing behind him and a leather briefcase in his hand. Mr. Phigg gave a strangled gasp. His arms and legs spun in different directions as his chair hurtled backwards and crashed to the floor. He staggered to his feet. Good morning, brother, he croaked. It wasn't... I didn't... not me, no. Good morning, Figgles, said the monk. At ease. No need to stand on my account when we're not on school premises, and I don't think there's any immediate need for you to deny anything, is there? No, brother, no, not me, not at all. Good, because I've come on a rather pleasant errand for once. He opened his briefcase and produced a rolled-up document tied with a red ribbon. Your friend Simon here, he paused and nodded to the old sheep. He got in touch and told me about your sterling research work, finding out so much about the nightmares. I've written up a little piece for the next edition of the Encyclopaedia Zoologica, crediting you, of course. Good work, Figgles. Ah, thank you, brother. Always glad to do my bit for science. But what is more, I've been in touch with the Amalgamated Examination Board. They've agreed that you should be a special case. For once, Mr. Phigg was lost for words. Congratulations, Figgles. I can now present you with your school certificate. He handed over the rolled-up paper and shook Mr. Figg's hand vigorously. And a mere 80 years after the rest of your class got theirs. Johanna and Harry and the shadow flock cheered and clapped and stamped their feet and hooves. The blackbirds outside caught on to what was happening and serenaded them with another chorus of For He's a Jolly Good Fellow. Then Brother Periwinkle was ready to relax. Over a cup of tea, he told Harry that he was sorry he'd missed him when he'd spent the day at his school. My instructions were not sufficiently precise, he said, with a meaningful look at Mr. Phigg, whose ears pinkened noticeably. They got decidedly redder as Brother Periwinkle proceeded to tell a long series of stories about his school days. Eventually, Mr. Phigg reminded the children about their education and led them outside, back to the little door that would take them home. So, he said, we've done what we set out to do, stopped the factory farm and kept the shadow flock working safely. We've been a good team and it's been very nice working with you. Are you saying goodbye to us? Asked Johanna, who suddenly saw something intensely interesting on one of the buttons of her cardigan. Yes, said Mr. Phigg, I generally do when you've got to go to school. But will we see you again? See me again? Oh, my goodness. He pushed them gently back through the door into their kitchen. Oh, yes, I should say so. And as he closed the door behind them, they heard him add, You don't get rid of me that easily.